tutti, oggi nell'ambito di Humus abbiamo Marcella Arruda, architetto e ricercatrice del movimento di Sao Paulo in Brasile. Oggi è qui per presentarci la sua ricerca, l'architettura della libertà, e ne proponiamo una piccola introduzione online in video.
Hello. Well, I'm an architect and a body movement researcher from São Paulo. And I really started to understand the relationship, because architecture and urbanism usually, it's really about trying to organize the space. It's really about trying to create boundaries so that you categorize or give functions to a specific place. And then I really started to understand how we could create more kind of performative spaces in which the bodies can also appropriate and transform the spaces. So that research started in a place in São Paulo that is really an empty space. And I don't know if you know MASP. It's a museum of modern art in São Paulo that was built by an Italian architect, Lina Bobardi. I don't know if you heard of her. But it's really interesting because when John Cage, which is this musician, he went to see MASP, which is really like a structure that kind of creates a framework and an empty space, like a big square. He saw that and he said, that's the architecture of freedom. Because it's really how the emptiness, it's really charged and really open for possibilities of people and time to enact on the space. So after that, after I saw that concept, I really started to think how we can appropriate of this, but to activate other spaces in the city. And to understand that beyond an architecture itself, like for you to create an architecture of freedom, you need to create free bodies. You need to create a safe environment or a fertile environment so that people can enact their freedom, so that people can really feel free. And therefore we started to work with many dynamics of how do you create this safe and this comfortable environment for the bodies to actually chew and go beyond the codes, go beyond the expectations and the behavior which are expected when you relate to a space or relate to other people in the space, and to try to create this kind of performing bodies and performative urbanism. I think that's a good introduction, and then I'm gonna focus a bit more on the process itself, which was a lot on how to recognize the pre-existence of the space. So which are the dynamics, which are the energies or the forces that push people like more into one specific place or make it more dense or more spaced, and besides that, which is your existence in this place? So how do you inhabit it? And simultaneously, how those two things coexist. So it's really about trying to understand the different layers of inhabiting and relating to a space. And in my research, I go through, it's a quote that says that freedom is the consciousness of limits. So to think of this emptiness and think of these limits, that they're all the time being negotiated by the people who inhabit the space, and that would be the essence of public space. Because if you think back then in Greece, you had the agora, which was the empty space where people met to make day-to-day politics, to show their desires, to fight for the things that they believed. But as soon as we start to building architecture, like to have these buildings around the square, and we start to make this politics that was so micro politics of the quotidian of relationship, and we start to put it inside walls, and therefore the public space, the essence of negotiation, the essence of freedom, but also democracy, it starts to be representative. It starts to have a big distance from the people themselves. And so that's a bit on how, in the context that we live in today, this contemporary context of really not failure of democracy and representative politics, how can we bring together and re-signify the agora today? What would be this kind of space which people have the freedom to fight for their desires and their rights? And that's really why I think it's so beautiful to be here in this place, in Chaiki Point, but also in this idea of like Casa de Quartiere, because it's really an open space of decentralized, of autonomy, of people that are coming together, building community and building their own reality. So I think it makes a lot of sense, and to understand also this in-between space of the buildings, that it's the space where people meet, it's the space where people negotiate, and they also build their dreams and their way of existing in the space and also in the world, in their lives. So yeah.